Welcome back to another episode of Amazing Kitchen. Today I'll be showing you how to season a high carbon steel wok, one just like this. I think there are a lot of videos online that you see on how to season such a wok, but I've noticed that a lot of them have a lot of misinformation or information that are not complete. So today in this video, I'll be going through everything that you need, from the oil to how to season this, and then finally how to maintain it as well. And then I'll talk a little bit about why some of these videos are not giving you the complete picture on the proper way of seasoning this video. Okay, well, if you like the sound of that, then stay tuned and subscribe and comment below after you watch this video and let me know what do you think of this method. Okay, let's get into it. Now, to season a high carbon steel wok is to put a thin coating over this so that it becomes non-stick. If you don't coat this, what happens is every time you cook on it, like frying an egg, it will tend to stick on this because the wall is very thin. This heats up very quickly, and that's the advantage of using a high carbon steel wok. It heats up very quickly, so you get that wok hay, but the drawback is the heat transfers so quickly that anything you put on it will burn or stick. And that's why we need to season it to create this very thin layer of non-stick coating on this. But then there's a proper way and there's a not so proper way to season this. So first thing first is you would need oil that is high saturated fat content. Never use vegetable oil or any oil that does not have a high saturation fat content. The reason for this is because during seasoning of this wok, we bring it up to very extreme high temperature, and when you add the oil into it, it quickly brings the oil to past its heating and smoking point. And what happens if you use an oil that is not high in saturated fat, it'll quickly convert the cooking oil that you put in into other chemicals such as aldehydes, and everyone knows aldehydes are cancer causing, and we don't want that, right? So make sure you don't use high saturated fats. So you look for a very high saturated fat content oil, because saturated fat under high temperature is very stable. Even though it reaches smoking point, but it still maintains its stability and it wouldn't break down like some vegetable oil do. So this one, today I'm using a virgin coconut oil. This is organic. Is it organic? I'm not sure, but it's cold pressed. It's cold pressed coconut oil. Reason why is coconut oil has the highest saturated fat content of all the oils that you can buy on the market. Palm oil is a good alternative. Lard is a good alternative. Even ghee is a good alternative. But those are about 60-70% saturation fat content. Coconut oil is past 90% saturation fat content, and this is the ideal oil you want to use for seasoning your wok. So that's the first thing. You need a good oil. Make sure it's high saturation fat so we don't create those aldehyde content, because remember, a thin layer of non-stick coating is created on the wok, and we don't want these aldehyde to be on our wok while we're cooking every day in, day out. So we want an oil that is stable and is good, especially during the seasoning of this wok. So that's the oil part. Now that is out of the way. Now this thin coating, some might ask, does it really work, or is it just simply heating the steel until it turns color? This thin coating is called polymerization of fat. It is heating the fat up to the extent that it creates a thin layer that will stick to this wok, and that in turn becomes the non-stick coating. Now remember, we don't season wok that are already having a coating like Teflon coated or any non-stick coating, because those, if you bring it up to extreme high temperature, the drawback is they also release aldehyde compounds, which are cancer causing, which is not good. That's why any non-stick pans are not recommended for high heat cooking. Then we have stainless steel as well. Now some people say we can season a stainless steel wok. Sure. But the problem with stainless steel is when you bring it up to high temperature and you season it, the non-stick coating wears out very quickly. Every time you wash and clean it, it strips away this non-stick coating, and it doesn't last very long. So that's why we don't season a stainless steel wok. But For a high carbon steel, they work really well because this coating remains on the wok for a very long time. And as you cook, every time you add oil and you cook under high heat, it adds another thin coat over the top. So this is very good to have to maintain a non-stick high carbon steel to create that fast heat transfer as well as creating that wok hay. That's why you see Chinese restaurants use this all the time, because to create a good tasting fried rice, you need that wok hay, which is a slight charred caramelization of the sugar on the rice that creates that extra depth of flavor that you cannot get under low heat cooking. So, yep, that's why seasoning the wok is very important. So now we got the oil out of the way, we got the type of steel or wok out of the way. Now the next thing is the procedure. It's quick and simple. We bring this up to heat until it turns color. Then we want to cool it down and wash this. We want to scrub everything down because if there's any manufacturer coating on this, we want that to burn off, but any remaining we want to scrub off under water as well. So after we clean that off, then that's when we bring this back up to heat again and we add our coconut oil into the wok and then wipe it in and out, and that allows it to stick onto the wok, right? Then once that's done, we add some water, clean it again, and then finally we add the final coat of coconut oil over the top, and then this wok is all ready to go. All right, it sounds like a tedious process, but it's worth it because you just need to do this one time well, and this wok will last you many years to come. So carbon steel, good oil, and that's the way to go. All right, so let's get into the heating and seasoning of this wok. Oh, another thing to note is that make sure the area that you're doing this in is well ventilated. Preferably if you have a yard or outdoor space, you do it outside, because during this process it will smoke a lot and then it'll be very smelly and smoky in your home. So make sure all your windows are open, make sure the fans are on, everything, so that all the heat can be dissipated and all the smoke can be dissipated. And if you have little kids at home, make sure they're not at home while you're doing this. And if you have an extractor fan like mine behind me, make sure it's on high and preferably a good one so that you can extract all this smoke away. Yeah, you don't want that to remain anywhere near you. It's very stinky. All right, so enough of me talking. Now all of that, let's get into seasoning this wok. My extractor is on, my wok is on my stove. Now let's turn on the heat for this so that we can get it cooking. So I have this set to the highest setting. Now this is my high capacity wok burner. Now simply you just turn on the heat and let this come to an extreme high temperature where the steel begins to turn its color. But of course before this, when I received this, I washed this one time because there's a layer of oil that the manufacturer put on for transport reasons so that this don't rust. So I first washed this and then dried this once, and now that's completely dry, I'll bring this up to extreme high heat until you see the center start to turn black blue, and then that's when you know it's heating up. And we want to get that color all around the entire wok, all the way up to the rim, because once it's all seasoned, we can use this for cooking any dish and it won't be sticky onto your wok. It's starting to turn purple now. Now we want to heat this evenly, so we don't just want the heat to be on one side. Since that side is turning purple and blue, we want to turn the wok and rotate it a little bit so that we can get the other side evenly heated. Because the extractor fan is on, is drawing the direction of the heat toward the inside. So that's why this corner is heating up faster than the outer corner. But it's okay because we can just rotate this to adjust for the direction of the heat. Good. As you see, it's getting more and more even. Then I bring it to the edge and I want to heat the corners now. Now once this entire process is over, you will have a wok that is evenly looking and is beautiful. At first it will look a little bluish grayish, but as you use this wok for longer time, it will start to take on a darker color. It will almost turn black light. I don't know if you can see it. The steel went from this very glossy, shiny silver to this kind of a dull gray blue look. Now that's when you know the steel is really heating up. Yeah, I like to remind you again, don't do this with any non-stick wok or pan, as that coating will start to release under high heat, and you don't want that aldehyde to release into the air and in your food. Alright, now this is looking beautiful, and we want to bring this up a little bit more in temperature. Then we add some water. We wash this quickly to get rid of any residue that's on top of the steel. I don't know if you can see this. The center is turning this maroon brown kind of a color, so it indicates it's getting very, very hot. Now that is what we want. We want to bring this up to extreme high temperature. Now it's time we give it the first rinse. Let's turn the heat off and let's start. Now be careful, this is extremely hot. Now you just give it a nice wash, scrape off whatever that is along the inside of this wok. Give it a good scrape. Whatever that can come off will come off now. Now once this is done, we toss out this water. Then we can move to the next stage of this. Okay, now we're ready. The wok is back up to heat. Now I've shifted from the outer to the inner ring because it's closer to our exhaust fan, so I can extract all the smoke. It's extremely hot and it begins to smoke, right? Now let's work this oil to the edge with one of these tissue. Bring the oil right up to the edge of the wok on all sides. Now be careful, this is extremely dangerous. If you're doing this from home, like I say, make sure your ventilation is sufficient and make sure your oil is high in saturated fat. Like I say, don't use polyunsaturated fat oil or low saturated fat oil, such as vegetable oil. You want to avoid using vegetable oil altogether. Peanut oil is not bad, but it's better if you can get coconut oil, palm oil, even lard. Now we turn off the heat. You allow this to cool off so we can wash this in some water. Let's get a little bit of water in. Right, now the process is almost ready. Now we clean off the excess fat. Now let's toss everything out. Now let's dry this. All right, there we go. Now let's turn on the heat again. Now we'll need a little pan like this to hold our dirty oil. So for the last time, I'll bring this up to heat. I'll add some oil to it and then swirl it around and then extract it out. Then we want to cook our first dish in it. So we'll use some vegetable of any sort. Some people use onion, some people use rice, salt. We want to use a vegetable to help it coat the wok, as well as to remove any excess aroma and flavor that is stuck in the wok from this seasoning process. So after we cook the first meal, of course we're not going to eat it. So after cooking up the vegetable, then we get rid of everything and the wok is wiped, clean and dried. All right, looks like it's hot enough. Give it a swirl. Bring it all the way to the edge if you can. Now this oil is no good. We want to toss this out. All coated, we pour this out. Then let's cook some vegetable. Remember, we won't be eating this vegetable. This is simply to do the final stage of cleaning. Whatever that's excess that is not supposed to be on the wok will come off with this vegetable stir. As you can see, it's working very well. You can see this vegetable glides over everything, even though it's extremely hot. We just want to rub this vegetable all around the edge and everywhere. I saw some brown pieces in the wok, which is good. We want everything to be off. Give it a scrape and scrub. Whatever that is not supposed to be there should come off. Right? Treat this as your piece of towel or sponge and you're scrubbing this. That's it. Now this is all done. We can turn off the heat and get rid of all this vegetable. Now this is not edible. This is probably full of dirt and any residue that is left from seasoning this wok. Alright, now this is done. We just give this a quick rinse and then it's all ready. Okay, alright, that's it. Okay, now our wok is well seasoned. Look how beautiful it looks. There's this bluish reddish hue. So if you're a very enthusiastic chef or cook at home or at work, anywhere, a carbon steel wok is a must. If you cook a lot of Asian dishes where you do a lot of stir fry and deep fry, this is very good to do the job. The walls are extremely thin, so it heats up very quickly. And then because of this seasoned wok, it's non-stick. It's better than using Teflon coated and those coated woks because those cannot take high heat. So if you do a lot of high heat cooking, then those are not ideal. It releases aldehydes as it reaches a certain temperature. And then also with scraping, it will come off and get into your food. So I never like non-stick coating utensils. I don't have any in my kitchen. Those that I had before, I got rid of. And then I have a stainless steel wok also. That is very good for its purpose, but one of these is a must for Asian cooking. So I hope you have one and you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you think of everything you've seen. Was it like this, how you've done your wok seasoning? And if it's not, let me know how yours is done. If you've used vegetable oil, which is a very low saturated fat oil, I recommend that you wash away, bring it back to heat, wash away that layer and clean it off really well and use a high saturated fat oil such as coconut oil, palm oil, lard, or even ghee will do the job. Alright, well, I think enough said. That's about it. Comments below and let me know what you think. Have you tried something like this before, or you're planning to try to season your own wok in the future? Alright. Okay, until the next episode, we'll see you again. Bye now.